So before I get into all the guns, there are a couple topics that I want to talk about that apply to everything, one of which is the difference between open bolt and closed bolt. Here's a Thompson. You can see that it's open bolt because the bolt is in the rear position, and that's how it fires. When you pull the trigger, it goes forward to fire. On the UMP, it's closed already. In terms of use, what that means is on an empty magazine, the open bolt gun will lock closed, and when you change magazine, you'll have to open it back up. On the closed bolt gun, it'll lock open, and on a new magazine, you can either hit the bolt release or hit the charging handle. Another thing to note is that a lot of guns have stocks that you can either extend or retract. This has no impact on gameplay. It is purely aesthetics. There is no change in recoil, handling, or anything like that. It's just if you want to look cool. So if you go into settings, there is something in the player category called virtual stock, and the description says simulates a physical gun stock. It basically makes a third point of contact. So normally if I go in and disable this, you grab with two hands, and those are the only things holding the gun. So my one hand's here, my other hand's here, and I can pivot the gun around like so. If you enable virtual stock, it creates a third point of contact. So you have your left hand, your right hand, and then your shoulder. So you can't pivot, like my hand's here, I grab my hand and I move it here. It doesn't transition as well. I can't do that like over spin thing I was doing before. I can't do this when virtual stock's enabled because there's that third point of contact. What that means is that the recoil is, and like handling, is easier to manage. It's a lot more natural and there's less wobble. I would highly recommend this. And one interesting thing about it is that the recoil is less the farther out you hold your gun. That's just a byproduct of how virtual stock works. You are a bit slower around corners. Like if somebody's coming around a corner, you're going around a corner, you can't like turn your gun and snap up quickly to them. But the upside is that longer shots are much more manageable as opposed to without virtual stock. It's harder to get on target and stay on target quickly. Akimbo, you look pretty cool, but the recoil is kind of ridiculous and unmanageable when you have two guns in your hand. Pretty much always use two hands when shooting. The exception to this is the Uzi and the sawed-off shotgun. These guns are not really affected by recoil, so going around a corner and two-handing shotguns or two-handing Uzis is actually viable for close quarters. Get past about where that chicken is, and it's not very effective. We're going to start with the pistols and make our way down. First one's the Glock. By default, it's a 3-round burst. You can change this to semi-automatic with the fire selector switch. Reloading it is possible two ways. You can either click the slide and that'll drop it, or on empty you can hit the slide release button, and that is a bit faster. All of these four function the same way, and the Beretta also functions this way. The Tech 9 functions a bit differently in that you have to pull back the bolt and then release it to charge it. And on empty, it does not lock open. Dead trigger until you charge it and release it. The revolver is interesting. It has 5 shots. You push the magazine release button, and then you have to tilt it up to drop the empty shells. Then, at your pouch, you can reload it, and when you close it, it spins the cylinder. If you want to do Russian roulette, you can insert 1 round, close the cylinder, and then you can like flick it away from your vision or something to randomize the cylinder. Luger has this interesting operating mechanism, but function-wise is pretty much the same as a standard pistol. Tokarev, also pretty similar. You'll see a lot of... Once you get the hang of the basic gun mechanics, they pretty much apply across most firearms. The Weebly is kind of similar to the Revolver, except when you push the magazine release, they all pop out the top, and you load them like this. And then you flick it up to close it. You can insert only a couple. You do not have to load it completely. Moving on to the submachine guns, we have the Bizon, which is either fully automatic or semi-automatic. On last round, it'll close. It does not have last round bolt hold open, so when you insert a new magazine, you're going to have to charge it and let it go before it'll shoot. See, dead trigger until you charge it. MP5 has the burst function, so it's either full auto, semi-auto, or 3-round burst. And as you can see, this one does have last round bolt hold open. In real life it doesn't, in the game it does. So you can either grab the magazine and drop it, or you can hit the magazine release and that'll drop it as well. I have it bound so the magazine release is also the bolt release. I'm not sure if that's the default. The P90 is interesting. It has a 50-round magazine, and on the last round it does close, so you're going to have to load a new one and charge it. You can charge it from either side. So if you're left-handed, you just charge it like that. And it does have a fire selector switch, so it is semi and full auto. The UMP is basically an MP5, but in a different caliber. It functions pretty much the same way. You can either push the bolt release, or you can pull trigger on the charging handle and it'll drop the bolt. The Uzi is open bolt, so when you pull the trigger on an empty magazine, the bolt will close. And when you insert a new magazine, you're going to have to pull the bolt back to the open position before it'll shoot. So here it's closed. You're going to have to pull it back before it'll shoot. MP40 is also open bolt. A lot of the World War II guns are open bolt. So it functions the same way. You have to pull the bolt back on a new magazine. PPSH, also an open bolt gun. This one has a fire selector switch, so you can go between semi-auto and full auto. This Sten gun is another example of an open bolt gun. So on a new magazine, you're going to have to pull it back. Thompson, another World War II open bolt gun. This one does not have a magazine release. A lot of the World War II ones don't. You're going to have to grip the magazine and take it out, and then insert a new one. The magazine release doesn't do anything. This does have a full auto and semi-auto selector switch though. Famas, this is a bullpup, so you insert the magazine kind of back behind the trigger mechanism. On empty, it does not have a bolt hold open, so when you take the mag and put it back in, you're going to have to charge it again. It does have a semi-auto. The AKs, these do not have last round bolt hold open, but they are closed bolt. So on an empty magazine, it's going to stay closed like this, and on a new one, you're going to have to charge it. An interesting thing about the AKs, in real life you'd have to like reach under to grab the charging handle, but this is Pavlov, so you can just stick your hand through the gun. So to be reloading quickly, you can just grab like kind of through the gun or like in the middle of the gun. You don't need to move your hand to avoid the collision. These operate pretty much the same way. You're going to need to rack it, and to charge it quickly you can just kind of grab through the gun. M4, this does have last round bolt hold open, so you can either push the bolt release, or on empty you can grab the charging handle, which is in the back here. And it is either full auto or semi-auto. AUG is 3-round burst. It does have last round bolt hold open, so you can either drop the bolt with the bolt release, or you can grab the charging handle. And it also has a semi-auto version. And on the AUG, you don't necessarily have to look through the ACOG. If you look below the ACOG, there's a little circular hole, which you can use as a method of aiming quickly instead of looking through the ACOG. You can just look through the hole beneath the ACOG and do a quicker shot if it's closer range. The BAR, open bolt, so you're going to have to charge it. It does not have a magazine release, so you're going to have to grab the magazine with your offhand to reload it. On a closed bolt, you're going to have to pull back the charging handle. STG-44 is pretty much an AK. No bolt hold open, you're going to have to charge it. So the M249 is the first of the LMGs. So how this guy works is you're going to want to take magazine, insert it at the bottom, and you'll see it's not linked up. You're going to grab the top, push the top up, then grab the belt, insert the belt into the gun, close the top, and then charge the handle. And that's what a reload looks like for this. Full auto only. You do get a mild accuracy bonus if your player is crouched. For recoil reduction, the recoil changes a bit if you're standing or if you're crouched. It's the only gun that has any difference in recoil depending on player position. The MG42 is pretty similar to the M249. You grab your box, insert it, lift up the top cover, move the belt over, close the top cover, then charge the handle, and that's how it functions. The Barrett, this is a Barrett M99. It is a single shot rifle, so there is no magazine or anything. You simply open the bolt, grab your new shell, put it in, close and then lock the shell, and that's all there is to it. The G3 operates pretty much the same as the MP5 and UMP. It has the charging handle here. It'll lock open on last round, and you can either hit the magazine release or you can grab the charging handle. It is semi-automatic only. The L96 is a bolt-action magazine-fed rifle, so you're going to have to rack the bolt each time. Grab here, pull it up, back, and then, like, you kind of make an arc with your hand to do it quickly in Pavlov. You don't have to be exact. Kind of this sort of motion. Holds like 10 rounds. Hit the magazine release. You can't grab it. Car 98. This is the only World War II style bolt action that'll accept attachment, so you can put a red dot or scope on this as well as a suppressor. No angled foregrip or anything like that though. Holds 5 rounds, and to reload it you leave the bolt back and open like this, and then you grab a stripper clip and insert that in the top, and that'll reload it fully. Holds 5 rounds, and to reload it, just do that. The Bren. This is open bolt. You can see here if I close it. Here's the bolt. So it top loads, and the charging handle, you're gonna have to open it. It's pretty much like the BAR, and if you're wrong-handed, you can still shoot this. The magazine or the foregrip will change from the left to the right, and the sights are off-canted from the magazine, so you can aim that way. Full auto only. Getting into the shotguns, first we have the 590. Pump action shotgun, so you shoot, and then all you do, you don't hit any buttons, you just pull your hands closer together, and that'll rack the pump. So shoot and then just make this motion. And then on last round, this will happen. It gets locked. I can't move it, and it's empty. So you take one shell at a time, insert it. You can close it then, and then load the full tube. And you'll know you can't put any more because the shells like clip through the gun. And then you can shoot. The sawed-off is 2 round, and then when you push the magazine release, it breaks open, and you're going to have to dump out the shells. It's like this sort of angle gets them out. You can't like do a angle like that. You have to dip them back. And then you flick it up to close it. Flick out the shells. And operation is something like this. The Sega shotgun. This is pretty much an AK but in 12 gauge. It operates almost identically. Full auto and semi-auto. No last round bolt hold open, so you're going to have to charge it on empty. The Spaz, you can flip the stock forward and back, and it doesn't change anything other than aesthetics. It's a semi-automatic shotgun, but it loads very similar to the 590 where you have to take one shell at a time and insert it into the tube, and then you can charge it. Getting more into the World War II rifles, here we have the G43. This one, you're going to have to grab the magazine, and on last round it does lock open, so there's no bolt release on these, so you're going to have to grab the bolt, and then it'll slide forward. And you'll see the recoil is absurd when you're one-handing it, so always two-hand pretty much every gun. The Enfield, this is basically a Kar 98, except it holds a few more in the internal magazine. Reloads the same way. You pull the bolt back, take your stripper clip, insert it, and then close the bolt. When you're completely empty, this will take 2 stripper clips. It holds an extra stripper clip compared to the Kar 98. The Garand, this also functions by stripper clips, but it's semi-automatic. You can preemptively ping out the clip by pushing magazine release, and then you can take your stripper clip, insert it into the Garand, and it'll automatically close. You don't have to push any buttons or do anything. And on empty, you'll hear the ping, and on last round fired, that's what will happen. So, and that's how you know you have to reload. The Mosin is basically a Kar 98. It functions identically. Unlike the Kar 98, it doesn't accept any attachments. Neither does the Enfield or any of the World War II guns. The Kar 98 is the exception there. The Springfield even looks like a Kar 98. Functions the same as all the other bolt-action rifles. See, empty, lock open, insert the new stripper clip, and then close. The SVD, this is the Russian's counterpart to the G43. It functions pretty much the same way. You insert a magazine, there's no bolt release, you'll have to grab the bolt to make it ready to shoot. Last round bolt hold open, and then click it closed. Here's the DP-27 Russian light machine gun. This has a like frisbee magazine and fires from an open bolt. You can see when you pull the trigger, it closes it. So when you load a new magazine on top, you're going to have to rack the bolt open. Full auto only. And then to get into the rocket launchers, here's the American's rocket launcher. You want to be careful when you shoot this. There is a back blast that comes out behind here that does do damage if you're near it. So to load this, you take your rocket, insert it into the tube, and then shove it into the tube as a separate action. Then you can grab it, shoulder it, and shoot your rocket. Single shot, so you're going to have to do that each time. And there is splash damage for the rockets. Next is the German rocket, Panzer something. Functions very much the same way. Grab a rocket, insert it into the back, then as a separate action, grab the back and shove it in. Then grip and line up the sights and shoot. And that's all there is to it. This rocket launcher is more of like a grenade catapult or a grenade slingshot than these two. So when you shoot it, you just basically shove it in the front and then pull the trigger. And the iron sights, you don't even really need to use. This chicken will not die. There we go. And that's pretty much it. I'll have a link to this map in the video description if you want to download it and play around. This does work in multiplayer, but single player is recommended.